come up. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, let's start. Anybody likes to start reading? Taruni, would you like to start reading from Narada became thoughtful?
Yes, Mataji. Narada became thoughtful. Shiva was the husband of Durga, the goddess of the material energy. It therefore made sense that he, as the Lord's glance, impregnated nature with everything required for material existence, namely time and the living beings, along with her destinies and natures. Vishnu thus had no direct contact with matter. The sage recalled a line from the Upanishads. Parasya Saktir Vividaiva Suryate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. By his will alone, the Lord accomplishes everything effortlessly through his diverse energies. Folding his palms, Narada thanked his father. His heart was flooded with joy. Krishna's arrangements were astonishing and perfect in every way. Still, he could not understand why the Lord had made such elaborate provisions for their eternal souls to forget their real nature and become entangled in material complexities. You said something yesterday, right? Divining his doubt. Divining, is that right?
Yes.
Divining his doubt, Brahma said, the living beings are meant to serve Krishna for his enjoyment. When they are unwilling to do so, he allows them to forget him. They then become influenced by ahankara and identify with matter. To fulfill their deluded desires to enjoy independently of him, Krishna manifests the material realm. Yet, they enact their illicit aspiration to imitate him, as this is not possible in his spiritual kingdom. Rama leaned back on his throne and sighed sadly. Krishna personally comes and explains the truth about himself, but those who desire to usurp his position remain obstinate. The Lord, out of his kindness, does not interfere with their free will and does not expose himself to them to fulfill their desire. He makes them think that when he descends in this world, he accepts a body like theirs. However, Krishna and his Vishnu expansions always have unborn and unchangeable spiritual forms. Narada asked, since all conditioned souls are covered by ahankara, why does the Lord allow some to realize his supreme position and keep others in darkness? Rama replied, Krishna is in the heart of every living being. He knows our desires in the past, present, and future. When he sees that a living being is tiring of the egoistic attempt to compete with him, he gives the intelligence to understand the truth. My son, you are free of all such egoism and thus quite competent to understand this knowledge. Bowing his head humbly, Narada asked him to continue describing the process of creation. Brahma said, first, let me explain the Dravya Shakti. When ahankara, or in other words, false ego is influenced by the mode of ignorance, the gross and the subtle material elements are generated, beginning with ether and its subtle form sound. Father, kindly explain what you mean by subtle form. This is a feature which enables an element to be experienced. For example, ether cannot be seen, felt, tasted, or smelt. However, if there is sound, then that means ether is present. Thus, sound is a subtle form of ether. Thanking his father, Narada respectfully requested him to continue explaining how the elements come into existence. Brahma said, from ether comes air, along with its subtle touch. Air is the basis of longevity, sense perception, mental acuity, and bodily strength. It further evolves into fire along with its subtle element form. Fire transforms into water with its subtle element taste. Water transforms into earth with its subtle element fragrance. Each element contains the subtle forms of the preceding elements. For example, as well as being fragrant, earth can also be perceived by taste, touch, sound, and form. Narada listened in wonder as his father described the intricate layers of creation manifested by Krishna's inconceivable potencies. How could anyone possibly understand it unless the Lord himself explains, as he did to Brahma? Grateful to have the opportunity to be instructed by the powerful deity, Narada paid close attention as Brahma continued to speak. Thus far, I've explained how the mode of ignorance acting upon ahankara produces subtle and gross matter. Now I shall describe the action of jnana shakti, which is produced when the mode of goodness acts on ahankara. Jnana
Mm,
shakti generates the mind, along with its presiding deity, the moon god, as well as other deities controlling the other bodily functions. Brahma explained that the Dikpala, the 10 gods controlling the 10 directions, preside over the ears. The wind god, Vayu, presides over the skin. The sun god, Arka, controls the eyes. The water god, Varuna, controls the tongue. The Ashwini Kumara twins preside over the nose. The fire god, Agni, controls the voice. Indra, the king of the gods, the hands. The god named Mitra presides over the anus, and the chief progenitor Daksha presides over the genitals. Narada was intrigued. This is so interesting, my lord. Without the sanction of the presiding gods, no one's body can properly function. That is correct, Narada. Conditioned souls always depend on higher powers. However, bewildered by ahankara, they do not realize this. Brahma then described how the mode of passion acts upon ahankara. This produces the kriya shakti, which generates the sense organs, namely the ear, the skin, the nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, anus, along with intelligence and the life air. Thus, by the three material modes, the Lord manifests the primary creation. Under his guidance, I, the secondary creator, am merely the engineer who assembles the parts. Narada felt ineffable joy. Though it was late and he knew his father had matters to attend to, he longed to hear more. Placing his palms together, he said, "If there is more to the creation, then kindly tell me." Narada, my son, there are countless universes within which the Mahat Tattva develops over thousands of years. Only when the Lord enters them do they come to life. Kindly explain how this happens. Lying on the causal ocean, Mahavishnu divides himself to enter each universe as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who is also known as Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha. He lies on the Garbhodak ocean, which fills half the shell of each universe. Simultaneously, he assumes the universal form of Virat Rupa with thousands of legs, arms, mouths, heads, etc. Narada asked, "Is this the form that the philosopher yogis meditate upon?" No, these yogis meditate on an imaginary conception of the universal form. The actual Virat Rupa is invisible and inconceivable. In trying to conceive of it, philosophers imagine that the physical universe is the Virat Rupa. The universe is like the clouds in the sky or the dust in the air. Sky and air are invisible, but we can see the clouds and the dust that indicate their presence. Similarly, the actual universal form cannot be seen, but we can see the planetary systems lying on it. Therefore, yogis imagine the upper planets to be the upper part of the Lord's universal body and the lower planets to be his lower limbs. Does everything within the universe correspond to the Virat Rupa? Narada asked. Yes. Listen as I describe the many representations of that form. The Brahmanas are born from his head, the Kshatriyas from his arms, the Vaishyas from his stomach, and the Shudras from his legs. The lower planets up to the earth rest on his legs. The middle planets, known as Bhuvarloka, rest on his navel, and the higher planets, known as Swarloka and Maharloka, rest. Is it Swarga? Swarloka. Swarloka and Maharloka rest on his chest. From his collarbone to the top of his neck lie the Janaloka and the Tapaloka planetary systems, where the great sages reside. My planet, Satyaloka, resides on the head of the Virat Rupa. Brahma described how the seven lower planetary systems from Atala down to Patala rest upon the lower part of the Virat Rupa. In this way, there are 14 planetary systems situated on the Lord's universal body. Narada felt confused. He had previously heard his elder brothers, each of them great scholars, refer to the universe as having three planetary systems. He mentioned this to his father. This is also true, said Brahma. Sometimes the planetary systems are categorized as being three only. The seven lower planetary systems can be considered as one. Bhuvarloka is a middle planetary system, and from Swargaloka up to Satyaloka is considered considered the higher planetary system. Just at that moment, the goddess Saraswati entered Brahma's chambers. Holding her palms and bowing her head, she said, My lord, many gods and saints await your audience. Brahma nodded. Then he turned and smiled at Narada. This conversation with you has been so refreshing, my son. I'm always beleaguered with matters of universal administration. Today, however, you have blessed me by giving me the opportunity to speak about my Lord Krishna. If you wish, you may also come again tomorrow, and we shall discuss more. Narada bowed low to his father. He felt infused with joy as he left Brahma's quarters. He ruminated on all he had learned. Everything emanates from the body of Karnadakshai Vishnu, an expansion of Narayana, who expands from Krishna and is also known as Mahavishnu. He expands as Karnadakshai Vishnu to enter each universe. On his spiritual body, the universal planets rest, just as dust is carried by the air. Overawed at Krishna's greatness, the sage was eager to hear more about
Mm, beautiful. Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Realizations?
I was thinking how much eager Narada is to hear everything about the creation, or how everything, Krishna created everything from his father. I mean, I'm just admiring his curiosity
Yeah.
and his eagerness to hear. At the same time, Lord Brahma, being the father, he's been doing it every day. He's creating, every day he's doing it. But then the way he's saying that, I'm just
Yeah.
I'm doing always the administration of work. But then today I'm feeling so
Yeah.
overjoyed. I'm feeling so fresh just talking about my Lord Krishna. He said,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's so sweet, right? Like,
So
look at the
personal.
love that he has for the Lord. I was thinking.
And it's a devotional service, what he's doing is devotional service. At the same time, it's like, imagine somebody asks, something very dear to the person he's meditating on. One thing is the Kriya, again, like Kriya Shakti aspect, which Brahma is using. But then another
Mm.
wants to know the relational aspect, and then about the Lord, and it's very personal. It's very sweet. I feel very sweet. Even though Brahma is so powerful, Narada is like so knowledgeable. Still, it's not
Mm.
enough to know the Lord. That's what
Correct.
I find very intriguing. It's never enough.
Mm.
They say, right? What is that? Like Ananta Shesha. Even if like give me 1,000 eyes and 1,000 ears, so I can hear more about the Lord and see more of the Lord's forms. It's never enough. It's never satiating to glorify the Lord. It's never enough. No, it's
So beautiful. In fact, today morning, right, I think I was hearing, they were talking this, Srila Prabhupada was saying, like, Dhyani Prayasa Udapastameva. I think this is Brahmaji's prayers. He's telling,
Mm.
one's intelligence, we cannot understand Krishna. Only by Krishna's mercy can one be able to, understand him, understand the Lord. It's only by his mercy. We can try our best with intellectual endeavors and, so much of everything, like how you keep saying. It's not the Kriya, it's not the Jnana. It's only through bhakti we can do. And that too, when we are doing bhakti, also we are dependent on the mercy of the Lord for his ultimate reciprocation and revelation.
True. So true. Thank you. Okay, shall we continue the next chapter? It gets even more interesting.
Yes. Universal form.
Vilas Manjari, would you like to read?
I'm sorry, I'm busy. I have to make prasadam. My son is traveling.
Okay, no problem. Somebody else likes to read? Rasastali?
Okay, I'll read.
Rasastali, just pause when you see a full stop. Okay, just
Okay.
pause for like a second.
Okay. Brahma, the universal form. Brahma continues to describe the creation, explaining how all aspects of the universe are produced by different parts of the Lord's Virat Rupa form. He concludes by saying that even he, Brahma, cannot fully understand the material creation. What to speak of the spiritual world, about which he knows nothing. The next day, after Brahma's public audience with the gods and celestial sages, Narada again approached his father in the privacy of his personal quarters. Brahma warmly welcomed his son and offered him a seat. Narada said, "My lord, I would like to understand more about the creation. You explain how everything emanates from the rest upon Vishnu's body. If you wish, please explain this in greater detail." Brahma beamed, clearly enlivened by his son's inquiries. He liked nothing more than he described Krishna's glories to an enthusiastic hearer. "My dear son, how wonderfully you engage your speech. This power of speaking arises from the Virat Rupa's mouth." Narada
Hmm.
said, Narada said, "Father, yesterday you explained how each faculty of the living entity is governed by the God who governs speech. Your questions increase my joy more and more," replied Brahma. Listen, dear son, I shall explain everything. The fire god Agni directs speech. Seated on a jeweled couch, Narada folded his palms respectfully as he listened to his father describing the Virat Rupa. The entire universe comes from the Lord's spiritual body as he lies on the Garbhodaka ocean. From his 7 layers of skin arises the 7 meters used to compose the Vedic hymns. His tongue generates the varieties of foodstuff offered to the gods, forefathers, and people in general. From his nostrils come the 5 kinds of life airs. His smelling power generates the twin Ashwini Kumara gods along with the medicinal herbs. His sense of smell also produces the earth element. From his breathing power comes fragrance. This made sense to Narada. The Ashwini gods were the heavenly physicians whose cures were medicinal herbs administered nasally. And the earth, of course, was the source of all fragrances. Brahma went on. His sense of sight produces form and fire, and from his eyeballs, which glitter and illuminate, come the sun god and the heavenly planets. From his ears, which hear on all sides, comes the ability to receive Vedic knowledge, as well as the gods that govern the 10 directions. From his sense of hearing comes the sky and sound. Narada recalled how fire's subtle elements is form, and that of the sky is sound. Touching the back of one of his elegant golden hands with the other, Brahma continued, "The Lord's skin and sense of touch give rise to the vibrational energy of all things, as well as
Wow.
auspicious sacrifices. the wind god Vayu, and all kinds of touch sensation. Narada was puzzled. How were all these connected? Brahma smiled. As I explained previously, touch is the subtle form of air, or the means by which it is experienced. Air is thus vital for touch. Touch also depends upon an object's vibrational energy. How is that, my lord? Because the sensory receptors in the skin respond to the vibrations or frequencies of material objects, giving the various touch sensations we experience. Narada eyes opened wide. How wonderfully intricate what was the Lord's creation. Brahma continued, just as Vayu directs the planets in their orbits by the movement of air, so does auspicious sacrifice transport the living beings to the celestial planets. Narada sat enthralled as his father explained the correspondence between Vishnu's limbs and creation. His bodily hairs produce vegetation as well as trees required for Vedic sacrifice. Clouds come from his beard and head hair, and his powerful nails are the source of electricity. Stones and iron ores. From the Virat Rupa's arms are born the principal gods who protect the universe. The Lord's footsteps are the shelter of the world, and from his feet come protection from the fear and the fulfillment of our every need. From his genitals arise water, semen, rains, and the Prajapatis, who are the forefathers of all species. His genitals also create the pleasure of sex, which makes one forget the difficulties of having children. From his anus appears the controlling deity of death, Yama, along with the god Mitra, and his rectum is the source of envy, misfortune, death, and hell. The Virat Rupa's back generates destruction, irreligion, and ignorance. His veins produce the rivers and peace streams, and his bones the mountains. In the abdomen rest the conditioned living beings after the cosmic annihilation, and in his heart resides his subtle bodies. His consciousness manifests religious principles, truth, and transcendental knowledge. Brahma closed his eyes. He appeared to be stunned. Tears trickled down his face. Narada could understand that his father was overwhelmed by ecstatic love for Vishnu. He waited patiently. After a few moments, Brahma slowly opened his eyes and continued speaking as if nothing had happened. How can I adequately describe the Lord's glories, my dear boy? Know that myself, yourself, Shiva, all the great sages born before you, the many gods, demons, nagas, human beings, birds, beasts, reptiles, etc., and everything within the universe, such as the planets, stars, asteroids, luminaries, lightning, thunder, and the numerous inhabitants of the different planetary systems are all within Vishnu's universal form at all times, past, present, and future, but he is always transcendental, eternally existing as the Supersoul. Narada was again confused. How was it possible that everything rests on Vishnu, and yet he sits in the hearts of all beings? Seeing Narada's baffled expression, Brahma smilingly said, the Lord's impersonal Virat Rupa sustains material existence just as the sun's brilliant rays sustain the universe. Nevertheless, as the sun god Surya remains a separate person with his own activities, so does Krishna. That supreme person enters everyone's heart as the super soul to maintain them from within, whilst simultaneously sustaining them from without in his universal form. There is significant difference between the sun god and the Lord. Narada. One minute. Narada said, Surya resides in one place only, but the Lord is personally present in the hearts of countless living beings and also in every atom. Brahma laughed. My dear boy, Krishna, glories are immeasurable and therefore unconceivable. Although the source and maintainer of the mundane world, he is transcendental to its laws and logic. He is deathless and indeed awards immortality and fearlessness to others by promoting them to his spiritual abode. Narada became further intrigued. Father, please tell me more about the spiritual worlds. Brahma explained that the material universe accounted for only 1/4 of existence. The other 3/4 were the eternal, blissful spiritual planets. Those worlds are not influenced by the modes of nature. Thus, no one there suffers from death or fear. Narada asked, who is eligible to go there and who must stay in the material world? Brahma replied, those free from material lust, desiring only to satisfy Krishna, return to the spiritual world to personally associate with the Lord. On the other hand, those desiring to gratify their own senses must attain in the material universe. However, both the liberated souls in the spiritual planets and the conditioned souls in the material universe depend on Krishna to fulfill their desires. You said the material universes exist in him and also exist in the hearts of the conditioned souls. Said Narada, surely that means we associates with him in the material worlds as well. The Lord is not attracted to this world, replied Brahma. He prefers his spiritual planets where he stays in his original forms as Krishna and Narayana. Although for material creation, he expands a part of himself as the three Purusha avatars who manifest the Virat Rupa and the entire material creation, he is personally aloof from the cosmos. To understand this better, consider the example of the sun. It always remains separate from the other planets, staying in its own orbit. Nevertheless, by means of its rays and heat, it permeates the entire universe. Brahma paused for a moment as Narada assimilated his words. Then he added, what I have spoken elucidates the Purusha Shukta found in the Rig Veda. This hymn describes how all things, past, present, and future, come from the rest within the Purusha. Narada asked, please explain the role you play in the creation. Brahma said, when I appeared from the lotus flower that came from Vishnu's abdomen, there were no ingredients for performing sacrifice to him. As you know, for a sacrifice, one requires flowers, leaves, straw, a sacrificial altar, utensils, grains, clarified butter, honey, gold, earth, water, the hymns of the three Vedas, and 4 priests. I also needed the Devas so that I could invoke their names for specific purposes. All this I derived from the spiritual limbs of the Lord's gigantic universal body. Then I performed the sacrifice for his pleasure. Narada looked admiringly at his saintly father. Brahma was a perfect role model by his personal example. He taught all living beings how to be happy by engaging the Lord's gifts in his service. Curious to know still more, Narada asked Brahma who Vishnu had manifested to assist with his sacrifice. Brahma said, he brought into being your brothers, the 9 principal gods such as Indra, who are masters of all creatures. Later, as the different species, such as the Manus, the sages, the Daityas, the Prithis, and mankind began to manifest by Krishna's grace, they too assisted me in performing sacrifice to the unseen Lord. Brahma again emphasized that although the entire cosmos comes from the depends on Narayana, he nevertheless remains aloof from his creation. Lord Narayana is never touched by material nature. Rather, he expands himself as three deities, myself, Vishnu, and Shiva, who respectively create, maintain, and destroy the universe. In reality, Vishnu does everything as Shiva, and I can and I can only act in accordance with his will. Brahma concluded, my dear son, whatever you inquired from me, I have now explained. Please know for certain that whatever exists both in the material and spiritual worlds depend entirely on Krishna. Narada sat in silent contemplation. He had discussed these subjects with his learned brothers, both amongst the gods and the sages, and he had heard theories which contradicted Brahma's explanations. Desiring to clear up these confusions, he respectfully addressed his father. I have heard some argue that the universe is illusionary. They say that when we are free from this illusion, we will be only oneness, that neither the Lord nor we are persons after liberation from matter. They contend that we are all one energy, and the varieties of existence are illusionary. How can I be sure that your version should be accepted over the above this view? Brahma closed his eyes in silent prayer, beseeching Krishna to protect Narada from such misleading arguments. Opening his eyes, he humbly replied, my dear boy, I always remember the Lord with earnest devotion. Therefore, by his grace, my words are never false. Protected by him, my mind is not attracted to illusion, and my senses are never degraded by material attachment. Narada considered Brahma's reply. It was true. I'm having a bad throat, sorry.
Are you okay, Rasastali?
Yeah, I just had a bad throat, having
Sorry.
some.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you. You can take a break.
Welcome. Yeah.
I can finish up.
Thank
Narada
you.
considered Brahma's reply. It was true that he never exhibited pride or lust, unlike some of the theorists whose opinions he had just cited. And as he had already explained, his words were confirmed by Vedic mantras. Folding his palms, Narada said, Father, forgive me for challenging you. I accept you as the proper knower of truth. See, this at this point, let's pause here. It's coming back again, those conversations of the sages. Everybody had that impersonal understanding, and everybody had certain opinions, and they were all like kind of challenging each other. They were all like argumenting with each other. There seemed to be the conflict. So there are layers of truth. And sometimes we think that we being humans are not supposed to have like difference of opinion. Who says that? Even among the highest level, even listening to all different theories, people can still have that. I have a painting in my Brahmastan area. I can actually show it to you as we're talking. This picture really shows how difficult Krishna is to be approached. It's an artwork, but let me stop sharing. Stop share. and the camera. This painting here, look at the intricacies. It shows the up there, it shows the sages, it shows all the demigods. It's a very, very beautiful. See all the sages, all the rishis, all the demigods worshipping. On this side, there's also more demigods. And then here is the animals of Vrindavan and the gopis. And here are the more of the sages and the boys and cows. And look at that image of like a scene like this. You can actually see that Krishna is very difficult to be obtained. You know, Krishna is not easy. Krishna is like, you know, we look at Krishna as a Shamsundar form. He's standing in the temple. We're hearing Vrindavan Leela. And it appears to be like, he's a coward boy, you know, and he's just playing with the girls and playing with the boys and the cows. That's how Brahma also got bewildered. So the same Brahma is now answering the questions of Narada. So it's not an easy thing to see Krishna as a Shamsundara, threefold bending form with the flute. It is not a. It's even the great sages find it difficult to conceive him as a cowherd boy. And Brahma, that's why he stole all the boys, and he did not understand Krishna is supreme. So the Bhagavan layer of God, the approach of him, approach of Krishna as Bhagavan is not an easy thing. That's why I like this painting very much. I mean, not painting, sorry. This is actually a stone carving from South India. I like this because it shows that, hey, don't take Krishna for granted, you know. He's very difficult to attain. All the sages are also like wondering, you know, who he is, how his actions and his supremacy are like looks contradictory. So it's not an easy thing. He's a source of all incarnations. Wow, really? And that's why even other Vaishnava Sampradayas such as Madhva Sampradaya or Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, they see Krishna, hey, it's Vishnu, you know, more believable as God, you know, sitting there in the causal ocean, lying down with Lakshmi Devi serving him. Hey, come on, yeah, that seems more like God. How can this cowherd boy, how can he be the source of everything? So it's very, very sweet. You know, Prabhupada actually sometimes says about a high court judge, when you go and see him in the house, he's doing a piggyback, he's become a donkey or a horse for his grandson, and the grandson is sitting on his back, you know, and then you go on there to get your biggest case solved or whatever, high court judge, and then you peep through the window or peep through a little hole and see that this guy is busy, you know, taking the grandson on his back, piggybacking him. So, you know, it's difficult to understand the power that's all powerful, being completely controlled by love of Srimati Radharani and completely controlled by the love of his devotees. And he just completely loses himself. He's a lovesick boy at the end of the day, end of Brahma's day or our day. It doesn't matter. Krishna is just that lovesick boy, blue boy, waiting for us to take a look at him. He's been waiting for us for a really long time. So it's not easy, you know, not easy to understand. But actually, if you want to know what's more difficult than understanding Krishna Vishnu Tattva is Guru Tattva, and Shiva Tattva is even more difficult to understand. Anyway, so let's end here for today. I got my morning program here. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please come back, ask it, comments. And I am very grateful to all of you that we're studying this Bhagavatam, and it's amazingly purifying. And I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Sending you lots of love from Mayapur Dham.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.